In this series, I want to discuss what the internet is. This is a well-known image mapping out multiple nodes of computers in the internet. As you can see from these pictures here, each of these nodes are actually IP addresses. Now, IP addresses are basically addresses to our computer. Each of these dots might be one of you sitting at your computer, connecting to someone else here and someone else there, or to a web page, or to an email, or some other information. Now, the internet is a connection of computers and not necessarily the World Wide Web, which is a bunch of web pages that are connected together within the internet. The internet might be multiplayer games where you're playing with other friends, not necessarily using any web pages or any other digital content that's being shared. Now, a lot of the internet is actually connected with wires, even across countries. This is a map of wires that are underneath oceans, across lands, that connect multiple computers in our internet. To understand what these things are called so that we can share the same language, you may have heard client-server relationships. Client-server, all that really means is that you sitting at your computer are considered the client, and when you try to access a web page, you're trying to access that web page from a server somewhere else in the US or in the world. If you try to access the CIA website, very likely you're actually accessing the server that is in the building, as I think the website is being hosted locally. This image is a image of what's called a web crawl. Search engines like Google have to try to categorize all the information that's on the World Wide Web. And to do that quickly so that when you search for cars, for example, that it can send you to the correct web pages, there's actually automated computer software that goes out and tries to visit all the possible websites and connections and documents all the car websites so that it's very easy for you and your search engine to actually give you the correct item that you're looking for. So how does this work in practice? So a web page is really just a text document that explains what a web page looks like. A web page is seen through a browser. In this case, I'm using Chrome, but there are other browsers including Internet Explorer or Firefox, and there are others as well. Once you load up a browser, you type in the web address here, in this case html.com, and what happens is this web page, which is an actual just text file named something.html, just like your Word doc is something.doc or your images are something.jpg. This something.html explains where to lay the images, what text to include, and where to send people if they click on these links. HTML, for those who don't know, stands for Hypertext Markup Language, because these links are like hypertext that will send you off to another web page. There are other websites like w3schools.com, HTML, htmlintro.asp, and you might say, well, I thought HTML is the only file. Well, since the evolution of the internet and World Wide Web, there are new formats that can deliver a web page. In this case, this is a dynamic web page that actually feeds an HTML document, but through a little bit of code in the server side. If you remember, the server is the computer that actually hosts the web page. And so a lot of this information can be served dynamically and is not hard-coded in necessarily. By default, the index file is automatically loaded first if you do not specify a specific web page file. All you have to do is the domain name. Now, let's explain what a domain is. A domain name is actually an easy to understand address that actually is linked to a more complicated IP address. An IP address might look something like this. And again, as we discussed before, an IP address is just a computer. So in the client-server relationship, a computer is the client, which you are using, and the web page that is serving you the website on the server is also just another computer. Technically, this laptop here could be the server, and these could be the clients. However, in this picture, it's very likely that they were trying to say that this is the server. So an IP address is great, but an IP address is very hard to remember. To make life easier, they made domain names. When you want a domain name like Steven.com, you go to GoDaddy.com or some other site that sells domain names. If I try to see if Steven.com is available, all I do is type in Steven and I type in search domain. And obviously Steven is taken. However, there is Steven.cc, Steven.city, Steven.bed, and all these other domain names. However, people are used to Steven.com. Oh, there's Steven.k.com. Oh no, it's $3,000. So StevenK.com is willing to sell his domain name for $3,250, which I'm not interested in. But if I type in something like Steven Art 33, that is available, Steven33.com. And if I wanted that to host my web page, I would type this in. And what GoDaddy does is it actually translates this into an IP address that actually sends it to the correct computer that actually hosts the correct web page. All web pages have that same issue. CIA.edu is actually a proxy or different name for the IP address. Even mycia.edu actually would translate to a IP address. There are many websites that do not require you to make your own web page in a program like Dreamweaver or coding it yourself. Google has Google Sites that lets it do all the heavy work of the coding and makes it very easy for you to just drag and create links by using menus and similar items. Another popular, easy to use web making website is WordPress. In the beginning, this was the World Wide Web. It was just text-based, and if I wanted to see what products I would want to click in, I would type in 11 and hit enter, and then it would tell me what kind of software I have. And if I want to return, I can go type in back, and that will send me back to the web page. Since the evolution of HTML1 and 2 and 3 and we're up to 5, the web has advanced so that it could be visual with graphics and videos and sound. Now the website can be used for information like Cleveland Institute of Art information, how to make web pages, but the World Wide Web can also be used to make fine art. One well-known example of early fine art using the World Wide Web as a media tool is Mouchet.org. It is a very surreal and very conceptual type of artwork that I will let you experience on your own. Another good example of using the web medium as an art is My Boyfriend Came Back from the War. It is a more interactive, choose your own story type diary of someone coming back from the war. This includes GIF animations and still images. You click on these and you would get random images that relate to the experience, wartime troubles or fears or traumatic memories, but to try to make you feel the same disorienting issues. So to summarize, you will learn how to make a web page that will look something like this. This is obviously just the basics to create this. Once you create that HTML page document, you will learn how to upload it and put it on a server so that other people can view it also. Eventually, you will learn how to add images and create hypertext links and other important World Wide Web topics.